Hey everyone, this is another Voice of JST, this time with another guest. It's been a while since I've had a guest. My good friend KyosComboCount on Xbox. Say hi.
Oh, hey.
Basically, what
Um,
we're going to do is it's going to be a joint podcast this time because we're both going to have a back and forth about a particular topic. And this topic, I guess, is going to be about, I guess, gaming past and present. And in particular, Kyo here has something to say about that topic. So if we let him go first, then we can get started from there.
it's okay. I'm gonna get this straight out the way. This isn't me ever hating on an older game or a newer game. It's more of a rant slash my opinion on people don't appreciate the timeline in gaming. You've got older gamers who say like the 30 plus gamers who say, "Oh, the SNES was the best game in the world. Well, the gaming console in the world." And then you've got kind of like people now who only care about Dark Souls, and it's kind of like, I'm not joking, it's true. Like
Yeah,
there is a
actually.
horrible separation, and my whole thing is we're kind of missing at this stage in life what the icons and the main inspiration for gamings are within the new generation. We know about Mario, we know about Legend of Zelda, but we don't really care to think about how much a new game such as Call of Duty's influence on multiplayer, or maybe Devil May Cry's hit on hack and slashing really has done
Yeah.
to our everyday gaming.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Like
mean, enough.
I agree because what Kyo's basically saying, and something I agree with personally, is that we're so caught up in thinking about the past, about like how Mario set the standard for this, and how Ocarina of Time was such an amazing open world game, or we always talk about the classics and how this and that for gaming, but like there's so many big things happening in the past few years of gaming that have really opened up gaming for a wider audience. Like even The Last of Us is a milestone for gaming. But people are so caught up on how, oh, it's not the same. It's just games are too easy nowadays, and Mario was the best, and blah blah blah. But when nowadays we have games like Assassin's Creed, games like Angry Birds, games like Minecraft, which are doing so much for a new generation. I mean, personally, I've always said, even if I don't like a game, even if a game that just came out isn't a game that I particularly enjoy, even if this game isn't like the games I used to play, maybe it's not meant for me. Maybe this game isn't supposed to be about me. I mean, quite frankly, I had my childhood. My childhood was roughly 10 to 15 years ago. I played the PS1, I played the SNES. I started off with games like Mario and Sonic, right, when I was a kid. Then I moved on to games like Soul Blade and Rayman when I was like an adolescent, I guess, when I was getting older. When I was a teenager, I played games like Ratchet and Clank and Kingdom Hearts. And then when I was a young adult, I was playing games like Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed. Fact of the matter is, now I'm 22 years old. The games are still coming out. And like, if I see a game that isn't like, Ratchet and Clank or a game from my childhood, oh well. It's not really about me. It's about a new generation. That's why I agree with Kyo, basically.
I mean, yeah, no, that is a really nice way to actually put it. Instead of me saying that there is an elite part of
There
gaming that people are
is.
missing,
There is.
um, there is an elitist part of gaming that I absolutely hate, but I would never say there is an elite part of gaming that is the best. Because if, like you said, Rayman, hitting something like Rayman, where we first saw colours being so well polished with gameplay and making it quite a hard puzzling game that everyone can accept,
Yeah.
it's something that was really missed back then. It was, everyone will remember it. You say the word Rayman to someone, and they'll be like, "Oh, cool! I've seen the movie. You know, Rayman was really good." And they're really really not. No, you play Rayman, and everyone will remember it, but no one will remember the fact that it was iconic for being able to be so colourful, so childish, yet so widespread as a game as a young kid. I mean, it's partly a reason I accept stuff like Minecraft right now is for being such a colourful, simple game, yet on a core level it's complicated because making something work with redstone is hard,
Yeah.
but it's enjoyable and you don't really care about the childish side anymore. The same thing with Metal Gear Solid. is I say these as new generations because these are the things that people miss, and this is technically the next step that was new and people missed. Metal Gear Solid was inspirational to all tactical espionage kind of games out there.
Yeah, it set the
Splinter
standard for
Cell,
stealth games.
yeah, stuff like Splinter Cell, and even Assassin's Creed, Hitman, all of those games that came out, they could look back on something like Metal Gear Solid, which is a big franchise now, and say, yeah, we want to be able to have enemy recognitions, the sight lines, make you feel like every step you take is important towards being secretive and stealthy. But we never really care about that because we've skipped a generation. Everyone now will either play Assassin's Creed or go back and say that they really like Legend of Zelda. Like, it's unappreciated to so much of a standard, it's upsetting.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It is. It's upsetting.
It is. No, because, like, for me, there are so many good games in that middle generation that you're talking about that have really set a standard and did great things for gaming that get ignored because everyone's either like, oh, games suck now, games are better in, like, the NES era or whatever. And I feel like, but you're missing a point in gaming where games really exploded with innovation, creative ideas, and basically great legacy. And I feel like it's really unfair how they make it sound like one era is better than the other when quite frankly every era has its good and bad games. Like, some games back then were abysmal, some games were good, some games right now are abysmal, some games are good. To me it's like if a new game comes out and I can enjoy it, then yeah, that's great. I don't care if it was like the older games, I don't care if it's not like it. I mean, if I wanted to play the older game, I'd go play the older game. I'm not chasing after. For me, it's like what I want is if a game comes out and it's enjoyable, I'll play it. People obviously hate a lot on the Call of Duty series, and that's fine, that's their choice. But I always say this: if a COD game comes out and I see the trailer and I'm excited by it, then I'll play it. If I'm not, I won't. It's as simple as that. Like, there's nothing complicated about that, and I feel like that's how people should treat gaming. There shouldn't be any of these, like, preconceived notions and setups and, like, but it has to be like this and it has to do this, and it's like people are living in the past. It's like, or do you enjoy something because you enjoy having fun, or do you enjoy something because you want that one specific thing? I mean, come on. Like, you've already played that game. Play a different game. If you wanted to play the same game, go play the same game again. You know what I mean?
That is the horrible split where if someone has that 30-year-old compromise of if it isn't a 2D platformer with the name Metroid or Mario on it, or something beginning with M apparently, then it's never going to work.
Yeah.
Like, it's horrible. It's horrible because a lot of PC games right now that sell are clones of old NES games.
They are, unfortunately.
Because a lot of the crowd are actually the old 30-year-old NES crowd. They want that kind of gaming style, which is cool. But it leaves the main fact of, like, in 10 years, will people ever sit down and say, I remember playing BioShock, I remember playing Mass Effect, and throughout the whole series, okay, I know I say Mass Effect, and people will probably be angry at the end of Mass Effect, but I'm going to say it anyway, because it's true, because it's now led to Telltale Games. You have so many choices that aren't minor in that game. In BioShock 1, killing each of the little girls, like the little sisters, I can't remember the names now, it's been so long. Yeah, little sisters. You had guilt in your own mind, but at the same time, it was that greed for power, and ultimately a different ending. It's very revolutionary for its age, and yet very unappreciated because it wasn't a standstill moment in gaming where it had a new bit that it did have new technology that it shared,
that's true.
supposedly. It just had new choices in the game. It wasn't technology, it was just storyline to them.
Yeah.
And
if
you had something like...
Oh, no, sorry.
If you had some, I'll go for it. I would say, like, I admit, Legend of Zelda gave that whole new adventure and freedom to gaming that had never really been in mainstream before. And I always say being mainstream because it was probably there and never explored. But will anyone ever kind of like sit down and kind of like at least appreciate a newer game for something like that? I mean, I'm not a big Call of Duty fan, but it's definitely, along with Halo, one of the mainstream hits that introduced people into a mass multiplayer environment where you will be shot from lobby to lobby to game,
Yeah.
fighting people around the world, having almost not too much of a different, but like different experiences every time. Like, I get there are bad points of Call of Duty where they ship out so many it could look bad, but so does Assassin's Creed, and that does well. People kind of miss out the point of
Like people enjoy these games, and it's like people get on their high horse, and it's like, why does someone else's enjoyment bother you personally? Just because it's not something you would enjoy? Because when it comes down to it, right? A lot of people, they feel like they want something to either conform to what they enjoy. They want it to recreate their childlike sense of wonder when they first played a game. But the thing is, you're not a kid anymore. You've grown up. You're better at games, hopefully. You've experienced stuff. You've seen games. You can't. You're not. You'll never find. Basically, people keep feeling like they wanna have that feeling when they first played Mario and they're amazed at the controls and the level of depth. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's never going to happen. Accept the fact that you're growing up. Accept the fact that you enjoy games not because of the first time experience, but because of the fun. Because I feel like there's almost two kinds of gamers. Two kinds of gamers. Sorry, two times. I messed up. Two kinds of gamers. Either someone who enjoys something because of the first experience, or someone who enjoys something because it's fun. You should enjoy a game because it's like this game has content that I find enjoyable, not whether or not it can recreate that magical feeling you had when you first played a game. I ain't gonna lie, in regards to Call of Duty, the last game in the series to make me feel that, sense of awe and wonder experiencing something for the first time was Black Ops 1, and that was ages ago. That was 2009. I'm not gonna, oh no, 2010, sorry. I'm not gonna lie, after that kind of feeling dropped off, but it's because I'd gotten so used to it. But this isn't just COD. So many series are like that. Assassin's Creed, every time I play Assassin's Creed, it feels like riding a bike. Like, it feels like I've done this 100 times and now I'm doing it again. But the reason I'm doing it is because I'm having fun. Like, I don't feel like we should place how good a game is based on whether or not it can give us that magical sense if we've never done it before. And to bring us to the next topic, this is why I don't like the idea that indie games are the future. Now, see, that's not to say indie games are bad, but people are doing this nitpicky thing, the same exact nitpicky thing that they do with older games. They're saying indie games are the future because look at this awesome indie game like Bastion, or look at this awesome indie game like Minecraft. Except, for every Minecraft, there's hundreds of crappy Flappy Bird clones. For every Plants vs. Zombie, there's a billion Bejeweled clones, right? Indie games are so easy to make, and it allows people to make all these amazing games. People talk about how an SNES era was awesome because you had games like Mario, but then there was crappy games like the E.T. game. Fact of the matter is, that's what I'm saying. Fact of the matter is, right? Every generation of entertainment media has its ups and downs, its good and bads. And to nitpick the good ones and say this is why this generation was better because it was creative and awesome and innovative, I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was about as creative and innovative as it is now. Fact of the matter is, right, back then, there were derivative, crappy games. I mean, anybody can do this. I mentioned this before. If you watch Game Grumps or JonTron, they will show you the amount of crappy derivative games there used to be. There's so many games that are blatant rip-offs of other games, right? So it just goes to show that there's just hundreds upon hundreds of games they're bad. So to say that indie games are the future now, that first of all, not being an indie game doesn't automatically make it better, right? The point of a game is if it's good or bad, it's based on the merit of the game itself. Indie, AAA, crowdfunded, whatever. The point is, what we should care about is the quality of a game. Like, don't get me wrong, and this isn't taking aim to people who like the game. People are praising Shovel Knight because, oh, it's a retro game and it plays like Mega Man. It's got that retro feel to it, and that's why it's so good. I don't care about the retro thing. Shovel Knight looks like a fun and functional platformer. However, it doesn't get any extra points from me for having retro graphics and chiptunes. To me, a game should be interesting because the content is fun. Here's the thing. When I was a kid, I liked the games for the gameplay. That's why now I still play similar games despite the graphics changing. For example, when I was a kid, I'd play a game like Mario, or I'd play a game like Mega Man X4. And nowadays, I play a game like Rayman Legends or Strider, right? The point is, the reason why I play a game like Rayman Legends and Strider is because I don't care about the graphics. I care about the gameplay. So for me, having retro anything is not a bonus. That doesn't make the game any better. That doesn't make the game any worse. So to
It's
say that, like, yeah, go ahead.
it's sad that that's what someone has gone out and said that makes Shovel Knight a good game, because Shovel Knight is a good game,
It is, yeah.
but not because
It's retro or whatever.
it's retro. It's not Retro 1, it's just been made.
Yeah.
I get that they kind of wanted that nostalgia trip, and it is kind of cool. It is kind of cool, because obviously you're never going to get that again with mainstream games. And the simplicity towards the graphics kind of allow you to have more fun with the platform in itself. That's a bit of a better point. Shovel Knight's fun because the interaction in players are funny as hell. The bosses are funny as hell.
Yeah.
The levels are really cool. That's why you should play the game. You shouldn't play the game because someone out there's realised that the only way forward is to go backwards and buy an SNES.
Yeah, that's
It's sad.
That's exactly.
Like, don't go out of your way to say that. If you're going to like a game, or you're going to hate a game,
Yeah, hate it for its
hate the
content.
game. Yeah, hate for what you pay for, not for what someone on the internet wants you to have a nostalgia trip for.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's just to me like, I think that I'm not saying the chip tunes and the retro like pixelated graphics are bad. I'm saying they're fine. It's just to me they're not
Yeah.
a plus in any way. And quite frankly,
No,
a
they're
game
not.
like Shovel Knight, like it's interesting, but I've kind of played that sort of game before. That doesn't mean I won't enjoy it, because I will. I just think that to say that these games are somehow better for doing it in this certain way doesn't make any sense to me. And mind you, a lot of these indie games are derivative in some way, shape, or form. Shovel Knight plays like Mario meets Mega Man, right?
Yeah.
A game like Bastion and Transistor, and I'm not saying these games are bad, they play like Diablo, right? These games aren't new. These games are games doing things that games have already done. So to say indie games of the future doesn't make any sense. Because it's almost like saying having a smaller studio means more creativity. No, it doesn't. It means that you have a smaller studio and you either make a good game or a bad game. It does,
Yeah.
because like without getting too much into it, like Steam quality control really needs to be a thing. Because there's so many games on Steam that are just bad, like that airplane game or air control game or whatever. Like that game is abysmal, like absolutely
I have
abysmal.
never played this game.
No, it's just some really bad game that got on Steam. Because like Steam Greenlight
no.
lets so many things get through. The point is, I feel like people are looking at absolutes, i.e., SNES era was when everything was radically innovative, and now everything's just derivative and repetitive, and that indie games are the future because AAA games are a dying breed, and AAA games are just the same cash cows over and over. Well, I'm sorry, but AAA games are keeping the industry alive, believe it or not. And it may hurt you to hear that, but the money's got to come from somewhere. You know what I mean? It's not coming out of thin
Yeah.
air, believe it or not.
The thing is, they're AAA games because they sell well.
Yeah.
And I'm going to admit this now, just so that it's out of the way. I love old games. I love new games.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan on COD. And it makes me sound like I'm just contradicting everything I like with this whole statement, with what I've said before. But if you're going to go out of your way to say that SNES is the best, to say that PlayStation is the best, or to say that New Gen is the best, you're genuinely not worth the game console. Like,
Wow.
go outside and enjoy life, because if you can't sit down and enjoy what you've paid for just purely because you find it really, really fun, then you're not really spending your money well. Like, if you go out of your way to buy a Call of Duty and you go, oh, this game's the same as the last Call of Duty, well, well done. If I listen to Disturbed and then I listen to another Disturbed song, I shouldn't expect something like a freaking nursery school rhyme to come out of like fucking nowhere. It's like,
Yeah.
the one thing people miss is every generation has gold in it.
Yeah.
Every generation has bazillions of downfalls inside
Exactly.
of it that people forget about very easily, unless it's out there right now and easy to get. Then people remember it as really, really bad.
Yeah.
like Aliens versus Predator and Alien Clone Marines.
Yeah.
People remember them for being very, very bad and awful because they're recent. But you don't remember the old bad NES games. So
Yeah.
now you're making this assumption that every game that's going to come out is bad.
True, and I
That's
mean,
wrong.
it's like they sound like old people because it's when
Yeah.
people say music like, oh, music nowadays is so bad. 90s music was better, 80s music was better. I'm like, not all of it was. There was like
No.
cheesy. There was like Vanilla Ice and NSYNC. Are you telling me they were the best and everyone loved them? No, they didn't.
Dude, what are you saying about NSYNC?
I'm not saying nothing. I'm saying everyone liked them.
Good. No.
Because no, but that's what I mean. It's like every era has its ups and downs. It's not like
Yeah.
music in the 80s was unanimously good and everyone liked every song in the 80s. So why people say that, like, oh, nowadays we have Justin Bieber, that's so bad, when back in the day we used to have him? Like, yeah, but that era had its own Justin Bieber. Maybe he wasn't as popular, but the point is that it's like, for me, it doesn't make any sense to say music sucks now because one artist is bad. I'm like, you mean one artist out of the thousands of artists? How does that make sense? Oh, I don't like this one artist, therefore all music nowadays is bad. Logic.
You've also got to remember inside of a growing industry that we've all grown up to be a part of. Anyone on the internet has grown up to be a part of in some way or form. But the further it grows, the more games that will come out. The more games that will come out, the more likely you will get crappy games.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie. Like, back in NES, the reason why the really good ones became mainstream was because there were a few titles only able to compete with each other. They managed to make their names and make their mark. When it hit into Sega Saturn was when 3D graphics were really trying to be tested out. Then PlayStation 1 hit, and we got a load of really good content. A load of bad content. If you go back and play something like G-Police right now on PlayStation 1, I can guarantee you won't have a good time.
Yeah, like some PS1 games were bad, like unredeemably bad.
I wouldn't touch them with kind of like a shit stick, kind of bad.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, some games are timeless. Like, you could play it again, like Crash Bandicoot, and you still have fun. But quite frankly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I found more PS2 games fun than PS1 games. There's only a couple of PS1 games I actually like, if I'm honest with you. A lot of PS1 games weren't that good. Like, a lot of them were not that good.
Still in the growing stage, but grew enough at that point to make it acceptable.
Yeah.
There are some really gold ones out there. There are some ones we won't talk about. And there's probably a load that people out there probably loved personally, and that's what I love about it. Like, PlayStation 1, the one I'm trying to hit is, there's a main point I want to bring up. Everyone that ever listens to this, I want you to just think about PlayStation 1. I don't want you to think about Metal Gear Solid. I don't want you to think about Jak and Daxter. I don't want you to think about the mainstream ones that we're trying to make a point with. Just think about the games that you played. You'll probably think about 10, maybe even 20 games that no one else has probably ever played. They'll pretend they have because they have some Google search for it on their fucking iPhone now because you said the name.
Yeah.
But you would have loved those games because at the time they were your childhood. They were your nostalgia, and they were your love, and they were your fun. You've got to remember that. The same thing for those 30-year-olds complaining about SNES isn't existent anymore, had the exact same experience with their version of their PS1, which was the NES. With PlayStation 2, that was revolutionary for me. That was being able to see Kingdom Hearts in all its glory, well, Kingdom Hearts 2 in all its glory. Kingdom Hearts 1 was awfully good and bad at the same time.
I agree.
Yeah, like, I don't know where my memory card is, and it still makes me cry to this day. I have 100% completion on both of those games. Kingdom Hearts 2 was so revolutionary in the way that it could tell a story, involve multiple worlds, make you feel involved, at the same time have action for an RPG that was insane amounts of fun.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the title Mega Man, therefore it's not great. I think that's what people say, right?
Pretty much.
The main thing is, I really want people to go off and remember that every generation has an icon, because...
In fact, that's the point I was going to get to next. Like, I mean, to nab a quote from, like, a YouTuber by the name of Nino, he's an anime YouTuber.
Okay.
He's like an anime, well, not like a reviewer, I guess, but he discusses anime. He coined this term, which was like every anime is someone's first. And to me, I will take that and apply it to game. Every game is someone's first. Now, see, people always talk about the relevance and like the impact of on the industry of games like Mario, Sonic, Zelda, etc. And like, yeah, I agree. The impact was necessary and useful. However, the point is that just as much as a character like Crash Bandicoot meant a lot to me, a character like Commander Shepard might mean a lot to someone else. Just like a character like Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank was important to me, Ezio from Assassin's Creed might be important to someone else. I had Mario this generation as Master Chief. I had Jack from Jack and Daxter. They have like
Oh my
Soap
god.
from Call of Duty. The point is that every generation has these characters who define their era of gaming. And fair enough, it may not be characters from your era of gaming. It may not be characters that defined your childhood. But guess what? I mean, without sounding funny, it's not your childhood anymore. Like you've had your childhood. Now you're probably 20 to 30, like I am. I'm 20, right? You've had your childhood, and now it's time for the new generation of teenagers and kids to have their childhood of gaming. For me, what's always mattered, right, isn't how big everything is and if everything can appeal to me at the same time. I'm not Tumblr. I don't want everything to appeal to me. The point is, if a
Oh
game
wow.
comes out, no, I'm being serious. If a game comes out
Yeah.
and it's decent and interesting, but I don't care about it, I realize that, what? It's not meant for me. Quite frankly, I know what my tastes are and I know what I enjoy. Fair enough, I don't really like that game, but guess what? A lot of people do. For example, I'm not a big fan of Dark Souls, right? But I can see why so many people like it. I can see why it's relevant to them. I can see why it's so good for them. It has redefined the kind of like survival adventure genre. It has redefined fantasy RPGs for people who are into that kind of thing. See, I'm not really big on fantasy RPGs, but people are. That game is relevant for them. I shouldn't moan that the game isn't conforming to my ideology, my own worldview. No, the point is, it's not meant for me. I've had my fun. I'm having fun with the games that I enjoy, right? But the point is that an experience for someone else, like that it just makes me happy to think that even if I'm not enjoying it, someone else is. Even if this isn't relevant to me, someone else is getting more of it. For example, I like the newer characters like Commander Shepard and Soap and Ghost and all that kind of stuff. Like they made up my teenage years, like with games like Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, Mass Effect, etc. But maybe they're not as memorable as say Mega Man and Sonic for me, because Mega Man and Sonic will always have a special place in my heart. But these characters are characters that, like, because people don't realize this, but they forget that that, let's just say, that derivative, repetitive, unoriginal, uninnovative shooter or hack and slash or whatever that you don't like because you've played better. Guess what? That could be someone's first game. That could be the first thing that gets him into gaming. You know, you may not be happy about it, but someone's gateway into MMOs could be World of Warcraft. Someone's gateway into MOBAs could be League of Legends. Someone's gateway into action games could be Call of Duty.
No, I'm joking.
Oh my god, but no, you know what I mean? Like someone's gateway into the gaming world, because people forget that this generation, a generation of kids and teenagers, they didn't grow up with us because obviously they were just born. Obviously, they were born into the Xbox 360, PS3 generation. They were born into phone apps and Netflix on your Xbox and voice controls. Like they didn't have our experience, and and they never will because they were born in a new
Yeah, I
era.
had buttons.
That's what I'm saying. It's like they were born into the Wii generation, right? This is their first experience, and I don't think it's our place to say our experience was better because we had it. We knew the struggle because we didn't have waypoints in our games.
Oh wow.
No, I'm being
Like,
serious. Like, so what we did, yeah. So because we had crappy technology, that means our gaming experience was better. No, it doesn't. No, it does not.
it's it's kind of like it's kind of easy to say if you're gonna go out of your way to tell someone that your opinion, which you will contradict yourself straight away, if you tell someone that your opinion matters more than whatever they're going to do in their life towards gaming,
Yeah.
then you're a snob.
Yeah, because it's
Simple
like to
as.
say that, like, oh, my opinion of what makes a good gaming experience is more relevant than your own experience. That, my opinion that uh, Mario games were the best means that, it's like my opinion that Mario games the best basically completely override someone's experience of a game, saying that, like, how dare you enjoy, like, I mean, and to bring up a popular YouTuber's name, I mean, I don't want to go there too much. Quite frankly, here's the thing, I'm a random disclaimer. I love Egoraptor. I love his new sequel ideas, because quite frankly, I don't actually like Ocarina of Time at all. I don't, right? And I don't really like newer Zeldas that much. In fact, I'm more a fan of Minish Cap. I think I like A Link to the Past, and I like that new one. What's it called? Uh,
Um,
the one, the one that
on
the one on
3DS.
3DS. Yeah,
Oh, sorry, 2D. Yeah, it's A Link Between Worlds.
A
The
Link
one where you get
Between Worlds.
to
Like,
be...
that's my favorite type of Zelda,
Yeah.
right? So I agree with him in
dude,
that
that's
respect.
so good.
However, the point is, like, it doesn't matter if it's Egoraptor or anyone else. They have no right to tell someone that they shouldn't appreciate a newer game compared to an older one. Like, your opinion does not mean you can tell other people how to enjoy their entertainment, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't. You can't. Yeah,
No,
fair enough.
within...
You lived in an era and you had your experience, but that doesn't give you the right at all. That does not give you the right to say that because of my experience, because of my time, I believe that, everyone should not enjoy this particular thing because it's bad. Like, that's not your place to say
Like,
that.
within all fairness, I... Like you, I love Egoraptor. I'll sit down any day and watch any video from him. He's one of my gods of YouTube. He's silly, but he's got a good point. Egoraptor's great because anytime he voices an opinion, he'll never tell you to hate it. That's what I
Yeah,
like.
that's what I'm
That's what
saying.
you should...
Like, he
Yeah,
will
that's...
always admit that it's just his opinion and his way of seeing
Yeah.
things. He never presumes to tell you what to do with your entertainment or what to enjoy. He will say
Yeah.
that I
But...
dislike it and here's why. And the thing I like about Egoraptor that most people don't do, see, here's the difference between constructive criticism and just spouting hatred. Because I wrote an article about this. Any idiot can say this game sucks, blah blah blah. But only a constructive criticism could actually point out the things about the game that aren't great and say it could have done this better. Like during the sequelitis, when Egoraptor was saying that the combat is just a lot of waiting and it's boring and repetitive. But what they could have done is they could have made it more like this enemy, where it makes you more aware of the environment, and when you get close, he attacks the more you attack. Right? I'm like, I agree with that. See, he just gave a criticism. He said why it's bad and what to improve on. That's how criticism works, not just it sucks because I said so, right? A lot of people don't do constructive criticism at all. So I applaud Egoraptor for that. But even then, and obviously Egoraptor didn't do this. Even then, it's like you can't use your experience as a way of saying people should enjoy something. Because the fact of the matter is, you might be like in your 20s to 30s, right? You've lived your life and you had your childhood. Guess what? These kids who are like 10 years old right now playing like COD or whatever, well, even though you shouldn't be, like playing COD or Assassin's Creed or whatever, right? They, their lives are just beginning, and they're experiencing a new era of gaming, new wave of gaming. Let them have their fun, and let them live their own life. It should not concern you what they're doing with their lives, what they're enjoying. Because you can't say you have to appreciate the classics, you have to appreciate Mario. They don't have to appreciate nothing. It's their
No.
choice. Like, because, that's why I feel like people are saying it's so sad that people never get to grow up with these games. They shouldn't have to. In the same way, I didn't grow up with games before NES generation, because I don't care. You know what I mean? I didn't grow up in that generation. I basically grew up, and in fact, I didn't even grow up in SNES generation. I grew up in PS1, PS2 generation, right?
Yeah.
That's the honest truth. I only played like Mario on the SNES, and I played um, Sonic on the Sega Mega Drive. I grew up with games like Mega Man X4 and Sonic Advance 2 on the Game Boy Advance and Kingdom Hearts on PS2. That was my childhood. So people can't say to me that I should have had this particular experience to be a true gamer. No, I didn't. I don't need nothing, and you can't force me to either.
No, it's the thing that I was going to say. The thing with Egoraptor is he always says it's his opinion.
Yeah.
However, if there's someone out there who, like you're saying, is forcing you to say, this is what you should have grown up with, this is what you should play, this is what you need in your life to be a gamer, this is the elitist way, join our elitist club, we have biscuits.
Pretty much. It's
It's
just
like,
basically saying that like, oh, my experience was the best. Your experience is
yeah,
clearly not worth anything because you didn't grow up with the games I grew up with. You didn't have the opinions I had. It's basically saying you didn't have the life I have, therefore you're inferior. And I don't understand that. For example, I ain't gonna lie, right? I missed out on some stuff, and I missed out on the relevance of playing a game like Tekken 3 because even though I liked Tekken, I didn't wasn't too into fighting games, and I didn't actually play Tekken 3 because I was too busy playing Mega Man games and Beyblade.
yeah,
Like, I wasn't that into fighting games as much. I only got into fighting games like more recently. So I may have
yeah,
missed that era. And then someone might say to me is, "Ooh, how dare you enjoy newer Tekken games? You should have been around when Tekken 3 was big. You know, that's a real Tekken game." And I'll just reply to them, "I don't care." I
yeah.
enjoy
That's
Tekken 6 and Tekken Tag 2. I don't care if I didn't play Tekken 3. Okay, Tekken 3 is probably a great game. However, you can't say that oh, these new games are bad. It's like saying they don't deserve to be enjoyed. Well, I'm sorry, but if you don't deserve, if you don't enjoy it, doesn't mean no one else should. That's
that's what I
silly.
was going to say. Like, if you get that guy saying you need this in your life to do this and be a part of our elitist club. We have elitist biscuits, and they all have SNES on the biscuit. It's really cool. Don't listen to that guy. It's one guy's opinion, and at the end of the day, when we say opinion, and even what I say now is an opinion,
Yeah, like
it's
this is all opinion.
only that person's. It's only that person's. But when you see a game, if you ever have a gaming console, even if right now, like, you go out and you have a PS1, don't just go out and buy iconic games or anything. Just play what you get. And if you're going to go back and play a game, that's cool. But if you're going to have a new console like the Xbox One coming out, go out and enjoy the games that you enjoy. Like, find the icons there, find the great things about it there, and like, just because someone says the only iconic game in it is back then, don't miss out what's now, because we've got stuff like Project Spark coming out, which
Yeah,
is probably, to me, one of the most, since I was young and saw what games were, saw what the small technology could do at the time, I'm wondering if it will ever get to that stage. Project
true.
Spark's the next stage where we're seeing people can sit down and create worlds, create anything they want, and do what their imagination will take them to. People who are stuck in the SNES generation will probably buy that game and make a remake of a Mario game.
Pretty
That's
much.
what they're going to do. If you sit down, you've got to have your own imagination. That kind of gaming there is probably those developers even shouting out. Gaming is about your imagination. Gaming is about your enjoyment and how you perceive it in your opinion. If you love a game, go out and do it, because there are always icons to everyone's life, not just some guy
Yeah,
on the
not
internet going,
just these one set in stone game. And because for me,
yeah,
it's like if just because like everyone thinks Mario's so relevant, it doesn't mean that like if you've played like basically if I took a kid from like this generation who, let's just say, he enjoys like Rayman Origins, Rayman Legends, and sat him down and forced him to play original Mario, he might not see the point. Because the only reason why my generation might see it is because we played it, we grew up with it, and we realized this game is relevant because it's revolutionized like platformers, right? But if
yeah,
someone else played it who's played newer games and newer platformers, he's gonna play it and say, "I don't get it. This game is just simple." Like, and you might say that like, oh, but it's like it's relevant because there's some like, but you're missing the point. He didn't grow up with you. He doesn't know why it's relevant. He's only playing what's relevant to him today. And similarly, another thing that I think is annoying, it's like how people get so mad at the idea that newer games are popular, and they say they can't possibly understand why people like this so much. I'm like, well, because one, they're not you, and two, surprise, surprise, people are enjoying games. It might not be the games that you enjoyed, right? Fair enough. But these are games that are
yeah,
relevant to their lives. These are games that they like. I mean, people may not appreciate hearing this, but people are forming classics based on what they played first. So, so what? Someone thinks Pokemon Ruby is a classic and not Pokemon Red. They didn't play Pokemon Red. They don't care about Pokemon Red. To them, Pokemon Ruby made their childhood, not Pokemon Red. Yeah, you get
Pokemon
me.
Ruby was a good game.
It was a good game, but I'm saying like
It
people
was a really good
are
game.
so mad about the new age of Pokemon, saying I remember when there's only 150 and there's this, and that, and blah blah blah. I'm like, good, that was your life. That's great. You lived your life. But guess what? These new kids,
Good.
I mean, these
Good
new
for
kids,
you.
right? Their first Pokemon game must have been Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, and probably Emerald down the line. So they got to play these games, and that's what they got into, right? You shouldn't get disturbed at the fact that someone might appreciate Pokemon Ruby more than Red. Well, that's what they played first. That's what they enjoy better. Like, you know what it's like? It's like the Final Fantasy thing. I've always believed that the Final Fantasy game you played first is your favorite one, and that's why people always argue about what the
Yeah.
best one is.
Like, you see the difference between, like, years as well. Years of like, primary school, because when I was in primary school, the main ones that hit were Final Fantasy 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
And you really saw the division in years between the ones that had played 5 and 6, the ones that had played just 6, and the ones that had played 6 and 7. And it was really, really funny, because people would be like, no, I like 5, no, I like 6. And I was just sitting there like, I really can't look at the graphics for 5 and 6. They're really weird, and I like 7, because I was a young kid, but 7 was good.
Yeah.
It's true, like, because I grew, when I was growing up, having a games console to me was a rarity. Like, it was really hard, because I didn't really have, like, our family didn't have a lot of money. So our neighbours did, and so did my cousin, and I'd go off and play games with them, and that's where I learned about Legend of Zelda, that's where I learned about a lot of older games like Donkey Kong and stuff like that. But for me, when I first hit a console, was, like, personally owning one was, and it sounds really bad, but my cousin gave it to me. No, sorry, I had one before that, was a Sega Saturn, but we hardly had games in that. And there was some really good games on it, but it was a family console, and it wasn't really that cool. I'm not going to lie. Tomb Raider 1 was on it, that was about it.
Yeah.
No, actually, Virtual Fighter 2 was a really good one, but I'm going off the point. My first one was, and I always remember this, was a PlayStation 1, the one that was personally, like, dedicated to me, because I ended up taking it over because I was the only guy in the family, well, kid in the family, who was good at gaming enough to keep doing it. And we had a PlayStation 1 that I eventually got, because it was meant to be for me anyway, and it had basically a bunch of anime girls in bikinis printed over the top in it, and
Wow.
I don't know where it is. I hope I can find it one day.
Wait,
Just
wait,
to show
wait,
you.
what? Was this a PS1 game or a PS2 game?
It was a PlayStation 1. It
Oh,
wasn't a
fair enough.
PlayStation 1 game, it was a PlayStation 1, and it was the old brick one.
Oh,
And
okay.
it had anime artwork printed over the top of it, and I don't know why, but it was just a bunch of anime girls in bikinis. I was about 7, dude. I was about 7. And this thing had been given to me along with a Beyblade, and I was just like, my life is complete.
Along with a Beyblade.
Like, yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Like, look, here's a video game console, but go out and battle your friends to death with Beyblades. Please, just get some sun. But, like, it was to your point, like, everyone has a first console and a first memory, and it's what's delicate to them. But for me, personally, out of all of this, it's also my main first point, which was every console and every generation has something very inspirational.
Yeah, exactly.
And even if you don't hear it a lot from people, don't dismiss the fact that just because a console came out, it doesn't have anything towards it. There's a reason it was there, and there was a reason that it does have a name somewhere. If you were to ask anyone about PlayStation, they'll easily be able to tell. If you're able to tell them about the Sega Saturn, they'll only be able to tell you that Virtual Fighter 2 was probably one of the best games on it, because it worked on a 6 button, and it was really cool. Or Tomb Raider 1, one of the most revolutionary of, like, exploration / Indiana Jones feeling games,
Yeah.
was on Sega Saturn first, really. I think it came around the same time. I can't really remember. I have to go back and look.
Well, and yeah, Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider's on PS1, I remember.
It was Sega Saturn as well.
Was it? Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever played it. It's kind of a thing of respect what you play and respect what you know, because that can be your future as well.
Yeah.
That's the main thing that a lot of NES people miss.
Aha.
Is
That's it. Yeah, go ahead.
They love Mario, they love Legend of Zelda, they love Metroid. I love all of those. However, they don't appreciate what is brought next. They don't appreciate the fact that Metroid, this awesome protagonist going through, like, the caves and, like, this thing, kind of spawned this whole new generation of sci-fi, and this whole love of sci-fi for, like, the gaming era. It was its mainstream sci-fi, which was cool. Mainstream adventure was Legend of Zelda mainstream platform was Mario.
Yeah.
And they then went on to Rayman, they then went on to Shadow of Colossus, they then went on to... You name any 3D
Like Prince of
sci-fi.
Persia.
Metroid's in there. Metroid's in any sci-fi. I mean, if... Sorry, I'm coughing, I'm a bit ill. You might have to edit that out.
Maybe.
But, like, they get to this point where, instead of appreciating what it brings up next, they appreciate just that. They don't appreciate it.
Yeah, like what happens afterwards.
It gave birth to a better game, it gave birth to new standards of gaming, it gave birth to a lot of new developers, because kids sat down at that point, played that game and said, I want to make this. It gave what we have now to Mass Effect. I mean, from Metroid to Mass Effect, that's a big leap, but it's true. And it's sad to say that because of that thinking, it's the reason now that we sit with the 100th anniversary Mario, that is actually probably the 2000th Mario style game to come out, along with Sonic still trying to thrive and ruining itself, and a later one is Castlevania, is an absolute appalling game as of lately. The reason it's here now isn't because they're good games now, it's because they were good games and people won't let go of that. People won't let go of the past and appreciate the present. You've got to respect the fact that if something's iconic, it doesn't mean that it's good forever.
It's gonna be good forever, yeah. Like either it stays the same and people are okay with that, or it changes and people like put up with that too. You know what I mean? Like it's difficult. And the point I was gonna make as well is that this part where I kind of rip apart a game I'm just playing right now. See, I finally bought Titanfall for 360, and here's the thing: if you were to ask me about Titanfall, I'd say that while a fun game and it's decent and exciting, it's unfortunately in a lot of ways exceedingly average. It lacks a lot of core features most FPSs should have. Right? It doesn't feel that satisfying for the most part, especially because a lot of stuff that happens in the match just happens like a conveyor belt. Everyone gets the same stuff for free. There's no feeling of satisfaction because you don't get to really earn anything for yourself because everything's just a cinematic that happens every single match. And, even something like wall running, while cool and functional, wall running doesn't quite feel right because there's no feedback from it. You literally just press A and it kind of does it for you. So there's so many things about Titanfall that I can't particularly say I enjoy. But here's the thing. This is based on my experience of playing older games like COD, Halo, Quake, etc. This is my FPS history. But if Titanfall was the first FPS I ever played, I think it was the best. I ain't gonna lie. If it was the first time I ever played an FPS and that's the game I played, it blew me away. That's the one thing I appreciated about people liking the game. To them, an experience like this is phenomenal. And I ain't gonna lie. From experience standpoint, the game is exciting. It's hella cinematic. There's so much going on. Everyone can play. Everyone can get into it really easily. Everyone can enjoy it, right? You get to see cool cinematics. You get to see explosions. It feels very authentic, and that's good. So I realize that even if it may not be something that's made for a person like me, it might be made for someone else. So I can't live in the past and say this game needs to be changed and be like games that I used to play. No, it's fine the way it is. Because at the end of the day, I can always go back and play the games that I enjoyed, or I can choose to play the new ones. I don't think the new ones have to be like the old ones to succeed. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in a way, you have to respect that Titanfall is one of the many, and I wish I could list them off the top of my head, but I have literally been, this isn't an excuse, this is true, I've literally been so ill for the past 3 weeks. I'm kind of dumb. I'm dumbed down in the head. I'm really dumbed down. I wish I could actually just list off a bunch of them. But Titanfall at the moment is a prime example of don't be put off by gaming because people are slandering loads of games coming out right now. Stuff like Titanfall, where it wanted to introduce mechs as something very kind of like staple of the game, instead of like in Halo where you grab a tank and it's, oh my god, I have a tank for the first time, what do I do with this? This is going to be really cool. They want to, it's an experiment. Gamers will always find the worst games in the world are the ones that were the first of its kind. But they're also experiments to make sure that the future gets it right.
Exactly.
So don't let people say, oh, because Xbox is having a bunch of crap at the moment, or PlayStation 3 is having a bunch of crap at the moment, put you off. it's going to happen in any generation.
Exactly. I mean, I think that. Oh, no,
look
sorry, go
at
ahead.
Rise. Was it Rise?
Rise
the
on the
new
Rome.
Xbox.
Yeah, the Xbox One game.
Yeah, that is a pile of doo-doo. That is
Yeah.
a pile of doo-doo. But it wants to experiment on new consoles. It wants to kind of like say, this is how your kind of like Rome Total War of the old age is now going to be on the new consoles and a new way of thinking. Unfortunately, it flopped, but you've got to respect it for being an experiment. Don't be put off by a new console or an old console or a now console, just because people out there easily bully the bad things about it. There are great things about every console.
Well, I mean, so yeah, I guess that I feel like we said a lot on the topic, and I feel like we are just going back and forth. I mean, because I think I want to wrap this up. I mean, the general point that I'm trying to get at, that we're both trying to get at, is quite simply that like gaming it's going to continue for some time, and I think what we should do is appreciate the fact that there will always be something for people to enjoy. There will always be gaming icons. There will always be characters and games that mean a lot to people, even if it's not the games that meant a lot to us in our time. You know, you have to respect that everyone's experience is different, and not everyone grew up with you. Not everyone played the games you played. You know, it's as simple as that. So, I mean, I guess with that, I just want to close out the podcast. So, thanks for listening. This has been another Voice of JST with KyosComboCount helping me out on the co-op commentary there. So, speak to you guys later.
Commentary.
Your co-op commentary.
It's all multiplayer DLC, by the way.
Multiplayer DLC.
It's $5.99 on the Xbox Store, and it's soon to come to PlayStation 4 as well.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, yeah. So see you guys later.